Hello, everyone. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty for March the 15th. Welcome to the Ides of March 2024, and it is number 137. And today we're going to continue our discussion of machine embroidery. We're in session 8, if you've been following along, and we're going to talk today about doing 3D objects, which are basically made up of both freestanding applique and freestanding lace. And we're going to talk all about how you do something like that and show you some examples. But before we do that, we're going to show you what we've been working on. Walter has something to show you. Show, Walter. Show.
This is actually, you may have seen it before, but it's a shirt I started quite a while ago. And I sort of put it aside and I started doing a couple other projects. And I started back again. So I'm progressing with that. I've put the collar on and finish the ends and put the buttons on, and we'll be done.
And
it's really nice because you can use it. It's great for showing if you have drinking coffee, and you have an accident. There's all these brown spots.
Oh yeah, there's that. There's one you can see right there.
If you spilt stuff on it.
Well, that's really good for you.
It's practical.
Because you spill stuff all the time. Usually on your pants, though. Maybe you may make a pair of shorts out of that same fabric, and then if you spill
stuff. I'm going to be wearing black pants exclusively in Australia. So
well, yeah, and that is an Australian shirt that he's making there, which means
it means that I'm taking it to Australia.
Yeah, well, you're going to have it done by the time.
Yeah, I will. I'll have it done.
Well, we have a pop-up sew day this week.
Yeah, we do.
There would be a good thing for you to work on. Yes, we'll talk more about that in a second. But in the meantime, we'll show you what I'm working on. This is a jelly roll friendly pattern from Donna Jordan at Jordan Fabrics. I've had it for quite a while. It's her pattern, so it's an absolutely free pattern, and you can pick it up. It's called Diamond Trip. And yeah, it's great for using up, 2.5-inch strips you might have laying around from other projects, or even if you've got like half a jelly roll or a couple of half jelly rolls, put them together. You can make it pretty much any size you want. I'm not done this yet. This is only part of it. And I don't think the pattern calls for borders, but I am going to put borders on. I'm going to put a couple of borders. I think I'll do a thin white border, inner border first, just to pick up on those white triangles that are at the edges of it. And then I'll put another color. I might see if I have another bunch of jelly roll strips laying around that I might make a scrappy binding. I don't know. We'll see. I'll get that figured out at some point. But anyways, this is what I call a palette cleanser. You've heard me use that term before, because I'm between projects, and I've started cutting out another project today as well. When I should have been really putting, and my original plan today was to put a quilt up on Lucy and start quilting it. The only reason I haven't is because I'm going to do custom quilting on the two I've got out there, and I'm a little afraid. I have experimented, I have practiced, I think I can manage it, but that's something that means it's going to have to be on Lucy like for probably 2 days, because it's going to be a slower process, I think.
We still have to put mine on.
Yeah, well, I've said to you, we can do that anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to get Walter's African quilt on there as well. Then I'll have to teach him how to do binding. I kind of like doing binding, but to a point. But anyways, not hand binding, by the way. And just as an aside, I've been using invisible thread for binding. I've been using actually one by Wonderfil that isn't completely invisible, but it's their lightest color, and it goes with any color. But I just bought one, I think it's Superior, and it is actually a truly invisible thread. It's a monofilament, I think, thread. It's polyester. I know some of you purists out there are going to go, you can't use polyester thread on cotton. Yes, you can. And you cannot see this at all. And it wasn't hard to work with or anything like that. Like the new monofilament polyester threads are so much better than they used to be. They used to be like fish line.
Yeah.
But now they're not. And I'm telling you, you can't see it. You cannot see it. So if you do machine binding, I highly recommend. I'll have to talk about that on Idiot Quilter next week in a little bit more detail when I show
Is it a
that quilt.
particular brand of thread that you've got,
Yeah,
or
Superior. I
Superior?
think
Okay.
that was Superior that I bought at Kawartha Quilting the last
Yeah, I
time.
believe you bought that.
Yeah, it was a big spool of it that I got, like, I don't know how many, 3,000 meters or 5,000 meters, something like that on it. But anyways, I'll talk more about that in Idiot Quilter
Just
because,
curious, do you also use that in as the bobbin?
yes, I do.
Oh,
Yes, I do. Because you will see it on both
yeah.
sides, kind of a thing. So, yes, I do. And not a problem. And I wind my own bobbin for that. So, yep, it's been great, really. Okay. So, announcements. Stephanie, sewing with Stephanie and Steven, Wednesdays as usual, except this coming Wednesday, which is March
20th?
the 21st. March the 21st. Yesterday was the 14th, right? And that's when we had it. Yeah, 21st. Um, will be the last one that I will be on for a few weeks because we're about to leave for Australia, as I'm sure most of you know. However, Stephanie will definitely be there. You come for
That's March the
Stephanie.
20th.
It's March the 20th. Oh, I was thinking today's Friday. Today's
Yeah.
not Friday, it's Thursday. Okay, March the 20th. All right. I have a problem with dates. I really do. But my secretary, my personal assistant, he checks all up on this all the time. He doesn't do it to be helpful. He does it to call me
Annoy
out.
you.
And it works. It really does work. You annoy me to no end. Okay, so yeah. Stephanie will be taking it over. And the link for So Chatty after next week will be different than what it usually is. So you will need to go to Stephanie Stitch's channel next week. And she probably already has it posted, and check it out. Now, she's posting it in her community notes section. And if you don't know where that is, if you look when you first go on to the front page of Stephanie's YouTube channel, you will see a bunch of different little buttons or tabs across the top, and one says community. Click on that, you'll find the link in there. But that's for the 27th, not for next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, it will be the link that's in the show notes below today. Okay? Are you completely confused? Probably. Because I know for some people it doesn't take much to be confused. I'm one of them. Okay. Pop-up Sew Day. Yay! This Saturday, March the 16th, starting at 8 a.m., running until 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be the last pop-up Sew Day for a while. I want to get one in before we go off to Australia, because once we come back from Australia, which is in about the middle or the second half of April, I'm working on the retreat, which is May the 4th. And so I don't think I will be having a pop-up Sew Day before the retreat. So yeah, next pop-up Sew Day won't be until sometime in May. So if you feel you're going to go through withdrawal, make sure you're there on Saturday for this one. Okay, speaking of the retreat, May the 4th is the date. And on Monday, there will be a video coming out where I have talked about all the ins and outs about how to register, what to expect, all that kind of thing in that video. Now, that comes out on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And in the show notes for that video will be everything that I have said in the video there for you as well, which you can like cut and paste into a document or, just refer to it in case there's something that you're not clear on. However, I'm going to tell you this now because I know somebody will not pay attention to this and they will try it anyways, and then they will be sadly disappointed. Registration is not open for the retreat. It will not open until we return from Australia, which means registration will open up we come back on the 18th. Get out your calendar again. I had this in my notes, but my notes are hidden on the computer screen. So I believe it's the Saturday. So the 18th is what, a Wednesday?
It's a Thursday.
Oh, a Thursday. So so the 20th is a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 9 a.m. Eastern Time, April the 20th is when I will open up registration for the retreat. Now, if you try to register before 9 a.m. that day or any day before the 20th, I will ignore your registration request. Okay? I'm serious about that. But I will explain all of that in the video that comes out on Monday. Okay, so you're just getting advance notice of all of this. And those of you on my mailing list, you will be getting all of this information as well as an email announcement too. Okay, I think that's all of our announcements. Do you have any announcements? Are you pregnant?
No.
Anything like that? No, nothing I didn't need to know. You're leaving me, going to divorce court. Yeah, well, that wouldn't be news. Okay, so today we're going to talk about 3D objects. What are 3D objects? Well, let me throw this up on screen so you get an idea. These are 3D objects, meaning that you do these in the hoop on your embroidery machine, but then you do some assembly and they stand up on their own. Now, there's some tips and tricks we'll go over about how to make these, and we're going to show you some other examples, and we're going to talk about tools. But you've already learned about freestanding lace, and you've already learned about freestanding applique in this series. That's those two things combined that create most of these creations. So if you already understand how to do freestanding lace and freestanding applique, these are a breeze. They are time consuming, but they're a breeze. So that's what 3D objects are. And this just opens up a whole new world, I know, for many of you that may be just getting into machine embroidery, or even some of you that have maybe been doing machine embroidery for a long time, because this goes way beyond just putting a monogram on a bath towel, right? These are a lot of fun to make, time consuming, yes, but the end result is really worth the time. Okay, so where do you get things like this? Well, let me just switch my screens over here for just a second. Of course, I am referencing OESD, which is the site where I get, oops, it's here somewhere. Just let me get this back up here, is the site where I get most of my designs, my embroidery designs. And these, you have to kind of do a hunt through their website. They don't really have a section that's just called 3D objects or things like that. Usually they're in amongst freestanding lace or freestanding applique. Now, this is an example of just one area here. And they do tend to be a little bit pricey because there's a lot of pieces, and that's what I'm showing you here. Now, this is for this set that makes this gingerbread house scene, and it has the trees with it as well. They'll often have a video that goes along with them showing you how to make them, or they will definitely have instructions you can print out. But it also shows you the designs included in this collection, and you need all these pieces to create these houses.
3D object.
The 3D object, yeah. So you see here, and you see you have embroidery, you have in the hoop freestanding applique. You also have lace, freestanding lace, which is right here. Actually, this one might be an applique. They call it an FSA, so probably it's applique. There's a little bit of fabric that's in there as. Now, this one's not showing that there's any freestanding lace. Well, actually, no, that's not true. This part here is actually freestanding lace. This part is freestanding applique. So they combine the two. You'll also notice that there's some little things. We're going to talk about these little buttons. They call them buttons because it's how you put them together.
Yeah, it's parts that they use to help you put the items together.
But we're going to talk about that and show you how that is
They
done.
also have what you showed at the end there. They're tabs.
Oh yeah, these are tabs that there'll be see here on this piece, there's a slot. Well, you would take your seam ripper. That's the easiest way to do it. Just take your seam ripper like you were making a buttonhole. It's like a buttonhole. And you just slice that open carefully. You don't want to cut into the satin stitches. And these just fold and stick in there, and that helps hold the pieces together. But as I said, they will come with a complete set of instructions See right here, instructions. It's a PDF file, and it takes you through everything. Shows you what colors to use. If you want to use those colors, you're free to use whatever colors you like, as we've said before. And it takes you page by page through each component. And now you can see why it's going to take you some time, because you have a lot of individual pieces to make.
Yeah, you have to make a whole bunch of individual pieces, and then you have to put them all together.
Yeah. But all the instructions are right here. And at the end of these instructions, they will actually show you how to put it all together. So they're showing you how to stitch them out. And then they start the assembly and how to put it all together. But we're going to talk more about that in a moment or two. But you can see this document has 44 pages. And I mean, you can leave it on your screen and read it, but I find printing it out, it's worth the time it takes to print it out and the paper you're going to go through, because you're going to want to refer to it. And sometimes your computer isn't in a convenient spot next to your embroidery machine. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can get. But as I said, there are many, many different designs. So let's see some examples here. So let me just switch over.
And some are more complicated than others.
Yes.
Some are a little bit more simpler, have fewer pieces. Depends on how elaborate you want to go.
Yeah. They are, I don't think Walter should have used the word complicated. They're more time consuming, because some have more pieces than others. Now these houses, like I just showed you a moment ago, there's a lot of pieces in these houses, and each piece can take anywhere from a few minutes to an hour, hour and a half, depending, to stitch out. So this is definitely something you need to plan for. Don't do this if you're thinking of giving something like this as a gift to somebody. And you decide to work on it the night before. No, not going to happen. You got to give yourself plenty of time for this. So here's some of the things we've made in the past. Oh yeah, let me point these out. Of course, these are Halloween houses, haunted houses, right with the tree and the fence. And these are kind of cute. These ones are from the Halloween collection, but they have others for different seasons. These are, of course, Halloween, but these are lanterns. And they have a hole in the bottom, and you can put a little electric tea light in them, and they'll glow. And that,
yeah, and you can do that in the houses too, right?
Yes, yes. The houses come with a little space in the bottom. You can put a little tea light in. What I like to do is put in little LED lights that have a remote control, so I don't have to like pick up the house and turn it on. I can just leave it there, and I can take the remote control. And if you get a remote control light that has a timer on it, and you've got these someplace in your house for the season, they'll just turn on and turn off automatically. So here's another shot of the same thing, but look at the detail. Like up in here, that's freestanding lace. That isn't a piece of fabric. That's, I don't think that's a piece of fabric. No, that's actually a hole kind of a thing. And it looks cool with the lights in it, and it glows through that in different places. And the same with how they do these windows, except these windows are just a light color of thread.
Yeah, and the orange part is the applique part,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, the applique part is this orange part, the door, these yellow windows and that. But because it's just a single piece of quilting cotton and it's a light color, when the lights are in them, they glow.
Yeah,
in there. So it looks really neat. Now here's a close-up of those little lanterns. Usually these come as a set, and they come in different sizes, as you can see, tall and skinny, short and fat. Now these ones, this one in particular, that is all freestanding lace that's in this one. This one, I think there is some fabric in it. I could be wrong. This one definitely has some fabric in it, where the bat wings and this white part on the top. Now, this is a pumpkin, as you can see, done as a 3D object. And again, it looks complicated, but they're very, very easy to make, but they do take time. This is a in the hoop.
Yeah, they're not. I made we're choice of complicated. They're not complicated.
No.
They're basically the same. It's just what I meant is that some pieces have more pieces to put together than others.
Yeah. And you can see this leaf with the stem coming out of it, or the vine kind of thing. That's all freestanding lace that's there. So they use a combination, as I've already said. Now, here's something a little different. I know a lot of people are into making bowl cozies. This is kind of a variation on that, a little bit more involved. It's all done as in the hoop, freestanding applique, and then you put the pieces together, little eyelets and buttons and eyelets, they call them. We'll show that in a minute. And it creates this kind of thing. I've made a couple of these, and I use them as decorations more than anything. And sometimes I will, at Christmas time, I might fill them with little Christmas balls. And they look kind of cute, like just sitting out on a table or whatever. You can use them, though, as a bowl cozy as well. But here's your problem. If you use these as a bowl cozy, they're okay for dry stuff. Like if you had a bowl of, say, snackies, potato chips, nuts and bolts, something like that, you know, that kind of thing, or bits and bites. We always call them nuts and bolts, but I think it's bits and bites. But if it's something that's sloppy, well, you can't really wash these.
And they're not really an insulator.
No, they don't insulate. No. They're just for decoration. Now, you can have some fun items, too. This little retro spaceship and this truck as well. I just made those because I could, and I want to see how they would go together. And again, they went together very easily. Lighthouse. Now, this is kind of a neat piece because there's a little tea light. You can just see it peeking through here. That gives you the little glow.
And didn't you use like a mesh?
Yes, organza.
Organza for...
Yes. Did you know that you can embroider on organza? Yes, you can. And that's what's really in the lighthouse here, in the what are supposed to be the windows. So you see there's a little bit of embroidery on the organza, and there's a border on it. But that piece all goes in to the windows. And in fact, you might think, oh, well, you got to do that, and then you got to cut it out, then you got to glue it in the square. No, you don't. See this little join here? This is actually sewn out as in panels, and then you use a zigzag stitch in the same color as what you're stitching on top of to put the edges together. Again, you're going to see what I mean a little bit later on. So yeah, there's lots of things. You can do an Eiffel Tower. They have an Eiffel Tower. They have all kinds of things on there. But as I said, they're not particularly cheap. They usually run anywhere between $20-some to up to, well, they can run up to like $60-some US.
Yeah, and sometimes around the holidays or something like that, they often have sales on these, and you can get them for less than the list price. Yeah.
And they put sales on all of these things in a regular basis. So if you see something you like, but you don't want to spend that price, just hang on and wait. Get on their mailing list. Easy enough to do. And they notify you when there's a sale on what sales are happening. And, you know, you can sometimes get as much as 60% off on these. That's when I buy them. Now, here is some of my Christmas display. Unfortunately, I could not find any still pictures I took, so I had to do a capture from the video that we did just before Christmas last year, where I showed you our holiday decor in the house. And this was part of it. And you can see here this sleigh with the reindeer. Those are freestanding lace, the reindeer. The sleigh is freestanding applique. And then the houses, very similar to the haunted houses, except, you know, more Christmassy. Then we have a train set. This is my Christmas train set. And the reason I had to do still pictures from the videos is because all of this stuff is in our crawl space with all the other Christmas decorations. So I really wasn't in the mood to try and crawl under there and dig all this stuff out. But you get the idea. My little tin soldiers are actually, the colored ones, are all made on my 3D printer. Angels, I have a bunch of these, as you're going to see, but this is a combination of freestanding lace and freestanding applique as well. And I have a whole bunch of them. And this big angel Now, we were talking a moment ago about organza. Well, let's see if I can blow this up a little bit better for you. Well, it's a little pixely, but there you go. That her gown is organza. And it has things, you can't see it in this picture, but there are things embroidered onto that. And the wings are freestanding lace. There might be a little fabric in there. And the sleeves, this is done in pieces, and then it's all put together. What makes this really nice is you could put it as a tree topper as well. Or you can stick a light up under her skirt and light her up as well. Ask me how I know, because I've done it. Now, Walter made this one. This is the Nutcracker. And this one took a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, it took quite a while. I made two of them actually.
Yeah. You may have heard us mention this before, where he, in one of them, I don't think it was this one, he used some metallic thread in the epaulets.
I don't know if that's the one or not, that I used it or not. It's hard to tell because I made one without and one with metallic, and the difference isn't that noticeable in the one that I used with metallic.
So, yeah.
Actually, that one might have had the metallic in it.
Hard to tell in the picture, but either way, it's quite effective, but takes some time. Okay, so let's go back here. So now we've shown you some of our examples of what we have made. And I'm just getting things set up here for the next thing we're going to talk about. So when would you use these? Well, I'm sure you already have thousands of ideas. Great for decor, and you can get 3D objects for any season of the year. So you can get some for Easter, Christmas, St. Patrick's Day, Canada Day, American Independence Day, whatever. There's all kinds of them out there for any occasion. But they make really impressive gifts for people too, especially for those people that are hard to buy for. You'll really wow them with something like this. Now, in certain cases, you know how a lot of people at Christmas time love to put up the Christmas village, and they're those ceramic things or whatever that people have. Well, you can do a whole Christmas village. It's going to cost you. You can buy them as individual pieces, or you can buy the complete set. And I think the complete set, they keep adding new pieces to it every year, can run you around $600 US. But you've got a lot of buildings. In fact, I wonder if I can just find it here for you to give you an idea of what it looks like. I've thought about it, but there's not enough time in the day for this. Okay, that didn't come up. Go back. Just bear with me for a second, people, as I try to get this up on the screen. Here we go. Okay, switch over. Okay, so here are some of the buildings. Now you can see that they run around $30 a piece, and there's a lot of them. Here's the 2023 complete collection. So this shows you what comes in the collection and how much it costs. They have it on sale right now, $662.66. I'll give you this is the 2023 collection. They come out every year with a new collection. Oh, but you can intermix them as well. And like I said, you could buy individual ones. But here it's showing you what you get in the collection. And so it is very, very pricey. I wonder if that shows you close up there. Oops. So, yeah. Really cute. Now they're doing these ones all in white. I think maybe white and a little silver. They don't have much color in these, which gives it a very elegant look. But there's nothing saying you can't do them in colors, whatever suits your taste. People every year wait for the new collection to come out and buy pieces to add to theirs. I've thought about it. I've not done it. And in fact, at this point, there are so many of them out there, I wouldn't even know where to begin
No.
with it. So, and of course, then it becomes a question of how do you store them? Actually, we're going to talk about that as well in a moment. Let me just get back here to screen I had before. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about setting up for this. Well, guess what? You already know how to do it. It does the same thing as when you're doing freestanding lace or freestanding applique. You use water-soluble stabilizer. You use the hoop that is recommended to you by your machine, and you use the color you want to use or colors of threads you want to use, and away you go. Do you need what?
Yeah, and you sometimes need little scraps of fabric for
the applique part. But it's basically done the same way as we've shown you over the last 2 weeks for doing in the hoop applique and freestanding lace. So you already know how to do it. Easy. What about bobbin thread? You can just use white. It'll be fine with these. And the beauty of these too, because they're 3D objects, they're standing up, the back side of them you won't see because they'll be inside of the little, when you put it all together, the assembly, right? So even more, you don't have to worry about that. So that is all there is to setting these up. And of course, when you're done each piece, you do the same thing. You rinse them in a sink of water, like I showed you last week, and let them dry, air dry, give them a light press with an iron, and you have the piece done. Okay? So nothing new there at all. And you do want them, though, to be stiff, really stiff. So you do not rinse out a lot of the stabilizer.
Yeah, just rinse out enough so that the stabilizer disappears on the edges. And then yank them out and dry them.
Yeah, because you want them to be stiff. Otherwise, if they're too floppy, well, if there's not enough stabilizer, and they're just going on your table, right? So
now, somebody last week said about the stabilizer.
We'll come to that.
Yeah, okay,
we're going to come to that about it. There was an interesting comment that we do want to respond to, but before we do that, I said there is some assembly required in this. So, let's see. Do I want to do this yet? Yeah. So how do you put these things together? Well, they sew these right into it. You notice in this picture here, I wonder if I can blow that up. Oops, that's not the one I want. I'm going to talk about those though in a minute. Just a second. Now, I guess that's okay. You notice here they've got these little alligator clips. I wonder if there's another picture. No, there's not. But you see these little knobby things that are hanging out the sides? Those are called buttons. And you see where this little tool, which we'll also talk about, is going through a little loop? That's called an eyelet. And this is how they're assembled. You pull that button through that eyelet, and that holds it secure. Okay? Now, the reason they do it this way is, one, to hold the object together, but also for storing. You can take them apart at the end of your season. Say you're making the Christmas village and you want to pack it away for the rest of the year. You can take them apart, lay them flat in a box, and store them. I don't tend to do that because the more times you're pulling those little buttons through the eyelet, the more chance you have of them wearing and not holding together. So I don't lay them flat. I don't take them apart. I add a little drop of white glue or fabric glue that dries clear to the little button when it's poked through the eyelet, and that keeps everything nice and secure. The alligator clips are used as you're working through this project. You have a lot of these to pull through. So the ones you have pulled through, when you're pulling another one like they're showing in the picture below, you may get that one in the hole, the other one might pop out of the other hole, and that can drive you nuts. So what you do is you have these little alligator clips, and they sell them on OSD, but don't buy them there, okay? These are what we're talking about. You can buy these online, Amazon. You can get a big bag of them for next to nothing. probably the best place to go for them. But you can probably find them in hardware stores too, like a Home Depot or someplace like that. Even in electronic stores, because these are actually meant when people are doing electrical work, on like circuit boards and things like that. But what they do is they're showing you here in this picture is it holds those secure while you're getting them all in. And then after you've got the whole thing together, you just unclip them and then add your glue if you wish, or if you're going to collapse them for storage, you don't add the glue. So they are something I strongly suggest you invest in. They do not cost that much money. I have seen people use very small binder clips as well, but I like these better because they've got a really strong grip to them. They have teeth on them, which allows to like really grab onto the button end of the assembly unit.
You can sometimes use pins, but the problem is that the pins are really hard to get through the buttons.
Yeah. So the other tool that they're showing here, and there's all kinds of tools you can get, but the one that they're showing there, see if I can find it here, is an alligator clamp. Well, I guess I already had that up there.
You had it up there, but you didn't. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. This is an alligator clamp. It's hemostats, if you know what hemostats are. And I have my pair here. This is my big bag. This is my big bag of alligator clips bought from Amazon. Here's my fabric glue, dries clear. You could use just white glue too, for that matter.
Yeah, I just use Well Bond or a clear type.
Yeah, anything that dries clear will work. These are hemostats. Hemostats, you might be thinking, don't they use those in operating rooms? Yes, they do. That's exactly what they are. Hemostats come in various sizes and points. Now, these I never use.
Yeah, because they're too hard once you get them through. You have to get them through the hole, and then you can't open them.
Yeah, then you can't get them opened up wide enough. So these are the ones, and it's the ones that they show on here that they advertise are alligator hemostats. See that? That's why they call it alligator. Yum, 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 munchy, 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 munchy. And these you leave closed when you push in the scissors. That's closed. You will have to work them through the hoop gently. Hole, sorry. The eyelet. And work it through.
Sometimes what you can do with the eyelet is you have an awl or what do you call it?
Stiletto.
You can shove that through the eyelet first just to widen it a little bit, and then put the hemostat through.
Yeah. And then you just grab that button and you pull it through. Now, I will tell you one thing. These are not comfortable.
No.
After you've been doing this for a while, and a lot of these things have a lot of these too, you are going to have like little marks in your fingers. Like, look at my thumb right there already, and just in the little bit that I was doing. So you will want to take a break and not rush it to do it. Now, I'm not sure if this is, because I didn't look at it beforehand, but it looks like they have a little video possibly showing you how to use these. And they do. And so you see here exactly how they go about it. So you notice that she was sort of giving it a little bit of a twist to stretch the hole. And she's showing just other applications for these. Going through. They are a tool worth investing in, but you do not have to buy these from OESD. Now, I don't see OSSD is selling them for $30.37 US. You do not need to spend that much on a pair of alligator clamps. The ones that I got at a surplus store. You know, oftentimes, if there's a surplus store in your area, or even a medical supply store in your area, you can pick them up for a lot less money. I think they cost me under $10. Well, in fact, I think they may have cost me about $5 at the surplus store, Army surplus store that I went to. So look around for them. I don't think you'll find them in a dollar store, but who knows, maybe you will in your area. But you don't have to spend that much for them, okay? And the only thing different about the OESD ones is they have them on a more of a severe angle by the looks of things. If you see here, the way the handle's bent on those as compared to mine, which, well, mine are kind of bent too, I guess. Yeah, I don't hold them that way, though. I hold them this way. But, and they look like they have a more of a comfortable handle.
Yeah.
Because it's covered in something, which, you know, if you have troubles with your hands or whatever, then maybe you want to invest more into them. That's totally up to you. Okay, so that's some of the tools. That's basically all you need. Alligator clips that we've already talked about, the alligator hemostats, and white glue that dries clear. And then, of course, your usual stuff, your thread, your stabilizer, and your fabric. Now, I do have a little video that I pulled from OESD showing how they assemble one of those pumpkin-like things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up here, and we're going to run a commentary about what they're doing. So we may pause it at points in time here. So let me just pull that up for us. And get it on the screen that I want to show it to you on, and blow it up so you can see it. And here we go. So here they're showing you how you put the pieces together. So they notice that zigzag line that they just showed there, that yellow line that came out in the center. What you may have to use your sewing machine occasionally to assemble some things. They have a hexagonal piece in the center of this, and the petals or sides of the pumpkin radiate out from that. What they did was they did a zigzag to attach each individual side to that center piece, and they used the matching thread with the color of the pumpkin. And that's really easy to do. You just butt the two edges up against each other, do a zigzag, make sure your zigzag is set with a long enough stitch to cover both pieces, and that's all there is to it. It's really easy. Don't let that intimidate you. If you've ever zigzagged a piece of fabric together, you can do this. It's not hard. Of course, yeah.
Here they have the hemostats.
Carry on.
And they're pulling the eyelets through each of the, or they're putting the hemostats through the eyelet, pulling each of the buttons through.
Yeah, and so you see then they're together like that. And they're saying they should be pulled inside the pumpkin. So you manipulate it in such a way and it'll be apparent to you so that you don't see them. Sometimes you will see them no matter what you do, but most of the time you can pull them onto the inside of your project, and when the project is put together, final assembly of it, you won't see the little button pieces. It's good to watch these videos that they put up with all of these before you start. Well, there, I guess they didn't. They are showing. I guess they mean the ones at the very top they want you to pull through, because there's going to be a top piece that goes on this. Now, okay, I want to talk here about something that, back that up again. Okay, this. See, this is a Japanese punch. They sell them. What it is it punches holes, and it works by just pushing it down. It's on a spring action, and it sort of twists when it goes through. It makes making a hole easy. On some of their creations, not many of them I've come across, they will have a hole that you have to put in. They don't have an eyelet or a hole that's already stitched around for it. Usually it's for adding another separate piece to it. And in the case of this, you'll see what I mean. So there you've got a hole punch there. And I think later they show, once they get this top piece together, they have a little ghosty character that has a little tab on it that will go into that hole.
However, you can probably make a hole other ways, can't you?
You can. You can use your awl, actually.
Yeah.
Or your stiletto. That's what I used before. I have one of those Japanese punches, but I have it when I used to do bookbinding. So that's why I own one, because I used to use it in that. But yeah, you could just use a sharp awl for it. So there, they got the little top, and you saw it was put together in the same manner as the bottom half of the pumpkin. And here's the little ghosty that she punched the hole in the top for. And she's putting her alligator clips in so she can grip it. And there you go. And that's what she's doing. You could also just glue it if you wanted to as well. So it depends on the project that you're doing, real. Do what works best for you. Okay, so we've talked about the tools, we've talked about where you get things, other tips and tricks. Well, we went over a whole bunch of tips and tricks last week with freestanding applique. They apply here too, but just to review, we had organize your colors before you get started. It'll save you some time. You don't have to wind a separate bobbin for every color. We've said that before. You could just use a standard white thread. It'll be fine. If your stitches are too loose.
Now the instructions that come with these projects sometimes say wind a color of bobbin that's the same as your top thread. And we're going against that and saying that, no, you don't really need to do that. Just use the same white bobbin thread, preferably probably a 60 or higher weight thread, and as all for all your colors.
Yeah, because no one's going to see that. Now, there is an exception to that, but this is a bigger problem. Sometimes your bobbin stitches might be pulled to the top, and that's a tension issue. On one of the Facebook groups I go on, there was a lady saying she was having that problem. She was seeing her bobbin thread coming up to the surface, and people were telling her, oh, you need to adjust the tension on your bobbin, blah, blah, blah. I looked at it, and my theory was that basically she needs to rethread her machine carefully because she may have missed a step, because I've had that problem too, and that's been what the problem was. I just made I threaded the machine wrong. Actually, I threaded the bobbin wrong.
Or it accidentally somehow
came like unthreaded.
Like sometimes what happens, the take-up lever might get unthreaded or something.
Yeah, that can happen. So do that first. If you're still getting them, how many layers of stabilizer are you using? Now, I looked at the picture that this particular person posted, and in my theory, it was she wasn't using enough stabilizer because things were puckering. And we talked about that before. If your fabric is puckering, it means you're not using enough stabilizer. Do not, in our opinion, do not start trying to play around with the tension, especially on the bobbin. Somebody recommended there's a little screw in your bobbin case that does adjust tension, and you loosen it or tighten it, but there's no markings as to how far you should go, and you could spend hours tinkering with that.
Once you start doing that,
you're screwed.
You're screwing it up. I wouldn't touch that screw on the bobbin. And I wouldn't try and adjust your machine tension either.
No.
Usually it's a threading problem. Usually it's a bobbin problem or something.
A stabilizer problem.
Or it could be your machine needs oiling.
Yeah, or means cleaning.
Or cleaning.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't play with the tension. Because you're just asking for a lot more headaches. With it.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to think as soon as they get a sewing machine problem that automatically that it's a tension problem, and they start messing around with their tension, and that's usually a big mistake.
Yeah, don't do it. How do we know? Just did it, tried it. It was hell. It was hell. Okay, so we said you don't need to wind, even if the instructions say wind a bobbin for each color thread you're going to use. Screw that. Yeah. Now, what if your stitches do come up in just a couple of spots? Sometimes that does happen. And so you're embroidering in black, a really dark color, and suddenly you've got this white stitch that's come up in a few places, but it's only happened in a few places. Yes, check your threading, check your stabilizer, but don't panic. Get out a fabric marker that comes as close to that color that you're seeing the white stitch on, and just dab it onto the white one. it'll disappear like magic. Yeah, fabric markers can be your friend. Don't be afraid to use them. And fabric markers are permanent, but you're not going to be washing these items anyway, so you don't have to really worry about it. In a pinch, a Sharpie works. Okay?
Especially for black.
Yeah, especially on black on deck. But yep, I've done it before. And even if the color isn't exact, no one's going to see it
Yeah, because a
because
darker color will blend in easier
yeah,
than a stark white color.
yeah. So yeah, don't you can just do that. That's a little fix it, a little hack there for minor ones. For whatever reason, it may have hit a piece of fluff that you hadn't cleaned out of your bobbin holder, and that can do it. And you might see one or two little stitches pop up. Just fix them up with a fabric marker. Now, if you got 100 of them, no,
I mean, if it's really obvious,
you've
then,
got a
then
you've
you've got
got
a problem with your bobbin or something like that.
And if that is the case, and then you figure out what the problem is, and you've got it fixed, but you've got all a row of these white stitches coming through, just back up the machine and restitch it over top. You can do that. Yeah, even on a satin stitch, you can do that.
Yeah.
It'll be a little thicker, but no one's going to notice. Okay. And if you've got a fairly decent needle in it, not one that's been in there for 4 years and has done 4,000 projects, sharp, it's going to go through the threads, no problem with that. Just a little hack. And yeah, we've already talked about cleaning, oiling your machine, making sure that's there. Make sure you're using the right bobbin case. If you are having a tension problem, are you using the red dot or using the yellow dot? Yellow dot is a higher tension bobbin. I'm talking about Janome machines. So I'm sure that Bernina's and things, they probably designate their higher tension bobbins in a different way with that. But just put in a higher tension bobbin and try that. See how that works. And yeah, we've talked about this washing out the stabilizer and all that kind of thing. And do make sure you're using the right hoops. Okay, now this brings up an interesting question. You'll want to save time because these take a lot of time. And you're doing one little piece like this, and they've got you putting it in the smallest hoop. Okay, but you're going to say to yourself, but wait, I have to make 4 of this same piece, the same panel. Like in the case of the pumpkins you saw there, looks like there's about 5 or 6 pieces that are all the same. Okay. But maybe they've only put it in the file that they have it there once, but they want you to do it 6 times. You can use a larger hoop and put multiples on your screen using the editing features of your machine, which we are going to talk about next week. However, be very careful that you have switched into a larger hoop. You get this all up in the screen, looks really nice. You got 6 of these things. You forget all about the hoop and you throw your smaller one in and disaster, because your machine is not going to like that. Your needle is going to hit the hoop and could destroy the hoop, could destroy the machine. Okay, yes, it could do damage to your machine as well. So be careful about doing that. Also, sometimes it's better to do one piece at a time than multiples because that's more tension on your hoop. You're going to need more stabilizer.
Not only that, if they have applique in them and stuff like that, then you're still going to have to be around to put the applique on at each interval
And trim
because
it.
what they'll probably do is they'll stitch out each individual design in a section and then go to the next section. I mean, it might be easier if you're doing a project that doesn't have any applique on it.
Yeah. Also, like Walter says, usually what'll happen is when you put those designs, say you put 4 of them in a space, it's going to do number 1 entirely first, number 2 entirely first, and number 3 is that. There is a way, it's in the editing controls, where you can say, I want you to do all this one color at the same time. So it'll say the first color is white. So it'll do the white on this piece. It'll do the white on this piece, the white on this piece, the white on this piece. And then it goes to the second color. You can do that. That does help you save time. That's a little bit more advanced. We may touch on that
However,
next
the
week.
other thing is if you run into a problem and your hoop pops,
Then you've got to start
then you'll have to
all
start
over
all
again.
over again for all the designs.
And it's not really faster. If your design takes 30 minutes to do one and you've got four on there, it's 30 times four. And let's just say you're down to the last one, the last 5 minutes, and your whole bloody, you get a bird's nest for some reason, and your whole hoop pops out. All that time is down the tubes. There is no salvaging that. Okay? It's just, that's it. Cut your losses. So, especially the first time you ever do something like this, don't go crazy. Just take it step by
Yeah,
step.
don't try and think you're going to save some time.
And that comes to my final tip about this, the time element. These probably take the longest to do out of all embroidery. Give yourself that time. Spread it out over several days. Do an hour's worth, or do a little piece today, do another piece another day, or whatever.
Yeah, like that nutcracker that I did
Yeah.
was a long time.
Yeah.
It was probably more than a day.
Those houses that I was showing you, I did not do those in one sitting. Those took time. So if you're planning to make this as a last minute gift, forget it. Because there's not enough hours in the day for you to get the whole thing done. So don't forget, it's not just stitching it out, but you've got to rinse out and let it dry, rinse out the stabilizer and let your pieces dry. Then you have to assemble them all. So yeah, give yourself lots of time to work on these.
And if you decide to glue them together, you have to wait for the glue to dry.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that is the one thing that frustrates people the most. They look at something, they go, oh, I'd love to make that for Martha. She'll just be head over heels. We're going later this afternoon. We've been invited over for dinner. We're going then. Well, let's see. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah, I can get that done by then. No, you can't. No, you can't. Give it up. No, right then. Plan. Planning's important. Okay. All right. So that's 3D objects, but we do have some comments from last week that we want to go over. Okay. I just need to reach past Walter for a piece of paper that's right here. That's your piece of paper. I have another piece of paper. I should have had these out already before, so you're not like I'm kind of in the camera shot here. And where did I put that other piece of paper? And I can't find it. Did I staple it to that one? No. Okay. Well, I remember what the person said. Someone took exception with us about water soluble stabilizer. They said that we had done misinformation because we said that water soluble stabilizer was the same thing. It was basically a sheet of glue, of a very thin sheet of glue. And this person argued with us that no, it is not. It is a starch product. It is not glue. Well, in my knowledge, starch is basically a form of very thin, watered down glue. It actually contains the same chemicals as glue has in it. Now, this person might have thought when she heard the word starch, she was thinking about like cornstarch, vegetable starch. And it is not the same thing. Starch is a term that's used at one time in history. When people wanted to stiffen fabric, they may have used vegetable starch with it. But in this day and age where everything is chemical based, it's different. So Walter did some research. And what did you find out?
Yeah, well, I found out, I wanted to know what, that brought up a good question. I wanted to know, I think we looked at what the stabilizer was a long time ago. And we came up with the idea that it was a type of glue.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did check what the brand that we use is listed as being 100% PVA. And I looked at what PVA was, and PVA is called polyvinyl alcohol. That's what PVA stands for. And there is also a glue called PVA glue, and they are related, but they're not exactly the same. Okay, a PVA is actually, if you get those packets of Tide and or soap packets for your laundry, and they have that little plastic casing on them when you throw them in the wash, right? And the casing dissolves. That's PVA. It's a form of PVA that dissolves. So PVA comes in a lot of different kinds of formats. So whenever it's uh, listed as PVA, I guess I assume it's PVA polyvinyl alcohol. And there's also something called PVA glue, which is polyvinyl acetate, right? So it is, we're not wrong. It's a type of glue, or it's a type of dissolving plastic that it's made of.
Yeah. So essentially, we did not give misinformation. We didn't give as much detail as Walter has found here, but it is essentially what we said it is. It is a form of glue.
Now, the other thing somebody else said, and maybe on one of your comments, is that they were confused, or not confused.
Oh, yes.
They wanted to differentiate that the stuff that we use for the or the freestanding lace is a water soluble stabilizer, but it's a one that's actually formatted into a mesh, almost like a screen or a mesh. And there's another kind that you can get that looks like saran wrap. It's like a clear plastic, right? That you do not use as a base for your freestanding lace. That's called a topper, and that water soluble type stabilizer is put on the top of the towel or fleece project, and that is keeps your
something with it nape.
Yeah, that keeps your stitches from embedding too deeply into a piece of fleece or a piece of what do you call that towel? Terry towel.
Yeah.
So do not, when you're using the freestanding lace, make sure that the product you're buying is like a type of mesh that looks like a mesh, like almost like a screen. Or
yeah, it looks like, yeah, like a gauzy kind of,
a gauzy type of product. Yeah.
Now this was the comment that was made. It was made by Sue String, is at Sue String. I don't think you mentioned not to use water soluble stabilizer that looks like plastic wrap for freestanding lace. It's for using as a topper for things like towels and sweatshirts, which there may have been some confusion with this. So thank you, Sue, for bringing that up, because they're both water soluble, but they are different as Walter just described them. So that, and back to the misinformation thing as well. Thank you for bringing that up for clarification. Don't ever tell us we're liars.
Yeah, I think that we try to keep things as accurate as possible when we're talking about things. Sometimes it's from our perspective, like using the bobbin, using the white bobbin thread instead of what other places have commented on using a colored bobbin thread. Ultimately, it's your project and you decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah. So that's why we took time to clarify that, because I don't want anybody to think that, well, quite frankly, we know what we're talking about because of experience. Because of experience. Okay. We don't make this stuff up. Okay.
Now, when you wash out your water-soluble stabilizer for freestanding lace, and you don't let it completely wash out, when you dry your project or whatever, it is very stiff, almost like it's been starched.
Yes.
So,
yeah, but we've already explained the reason for that as well. So I'm going on to a different comment. This comes from Rita Stone King 4889. I so enjoyed episode 7. One of my goals for this summer is to make freestanding lace snowflakes and stars for our Christmas tree. After watching your wonderful video, I now know what supplies to order and will be doing that in the next few days. In this video, you mentioned that after the pre-wound bobbins are used in your embroidery machine, that you use the empties to wind thread for your other sewing machines. Are you able to use them in your Janome M7? If you can also use these bobbins in the M7, then I think I will start purchasing pre-wound. Up to this point, I have been winding my own bobbins. Okay, I want to clarify how I use them, and Walter will tell you how he uses them. The thing with an embroidery machine is there's a sensor that you can set in your settings, usually, that will warn you that you don't have enough left on your bobbin to finish the project you're working on. So you got to drop another bobbin in. But depending on the sensitivity of your sensor, like how you have set it up, there could be a sizable amount of thread left on the bobbin. And that's what I have in my case. I would say that on most of my bobbins, I have probably about 20% of the bobbin thread left. Now, I could just toss that in the garbage, but I don't. What I do is I have a little tray of these over by my sewing machine, and my sewing machine is a Janome M7, and I put those in my bobbin holder when I'm sewing, piecing a quilt or whatever until they run out. And that way I'm not wasting any thread whatsoever with them.
So
But Walter,
yeah, so what I'll do is I don't tend to use white often in my bobbin in my sewing machine, which is a Janome 6700P. But I'll usually take the thread out of the bobbin and have an empty bobbin. And that empty bobbin I put in my case. And when I need to wind thread for like a shirt, which I use all different colors of thread on my shirts, I will take one of those empty pre-wound bobbins and wind colored thread onto it and use it in my Janome 6700P as my bobbin thread for a shirt project or something like that.
now you have to make sure that the bobbins you are using in your embroidery machine will work in your sewing machine. Our sewing machines are Janome, our embroidery machine is Janome, so yes, they are all comparable. But let's say you use Janome for your machine embroidery and you're using a Bernina as your sewing machine. Probably can't do that.
No, you got to make sure that the bobbins that you're getting also, the bobbins that we get for the 550E are class 15A bobbins, and they are plastic. They're the clear plastic, and they fit well and they work well in the embroidery machine. They also fit into the M7 Janome and my 6700P Janome. In fact, I think they probably work in most newer brand Janome machines that have a top loading bobbin. Yeah. Things that have a side loading bobbin, I would think use a different type of bobbin.
And some sewing machines can't use plastic bobbins at all. They only use metal.
So they may not work in your specific sewing machine. They happen to work in ours, but they may not work in your sewing machine.
So you just have to be aware of that and make sure, before you cause a problem.
And even if you decide to use pre-wound bobbins in your embroidery machine, if it's not a 550E, make sure you get the ones that fit into your machine.
Yes. So here's one which works in my favor, not so much in Walter's. This person writes, sorry, Walter, I have to agree with Stephen on the lowest speed for doing FSL, freestanding lace. Even doing standard embroidery, I have my machine at 400 stitches per minute. Have just found it's more reliable and less breakage, which is what I said. But Walter goes at the speed of light.
And I mean, it's really, the bottom line is do whatever works for you. Right? Like, I mean, if you're going top speed and you find, I have slowed mine down before. I have slowed it down on some projects because I'm getting too much breakage or something like that. But I mean, it is up to you how fast you operate your machine.
Just remember, speed kills.
Yeah. So,
but you're gonna argue the point, aren't you?
I'm not arguing point. I'm just saying do whatever works for you.
I mean, I don't know. I think I've got a tick mark for me, none for you with that comment. Yeah. Okay. Now they'll all say you're picking on Walter. Walter probably knows more than you. No, he doesn't. I started a machine embroidery before he did. He just sounds like he
Yeah,
knows.
he's done more than I
I
have.
have.
So, I mean, don't always listen to me.
I'll let you know when you shouldn't listen to him. Okay. So this one's a really interesting one. I had to do a little research on this. Um, it has to do with the scan and cut machine. Now, brother makes a scan and cut. I have a scan and cut, a really old model, one of their first models. Thumbs up. Um, yes, if you're liking this video, give us a thumbs up. Okay, might as well make use of that little graphic. So, a scan and cut basically is a machine that will cut paper and fabric. It's a die cutting machine. Okay, it's like a Cricut. Okay, now the one thing about it, because it comes from Brother, it will actually save a cut file, which are SVGs usually, into a PES file. A PES file is an embroidery stitch file that you can transfer to your Brother embroidery machine and it can read it. So if you're cutting applique, and instead of cutting your appliques out by hand with a pair of scissors, you could have your scan and cut out the applique shape, and then it will take that shape and convert it into the stitches that you can use in the embroidery machine to stitch down the applique. This person said, if you have a scan and cut, you do not have to use a Brother embroidery machine. You can use any embroidery machine. I thought, wait, no, no, you cannot.
Well, you can use any embroidery machine that accepts a PES
PES.
file.
Genomies do not.
I believe, I don't know, I'm thinking from the top of my head, but I know
That's a dangerous thing.
the newer Bernina machines will use other formats of embroidery files, but I do not know for sure if PES is one of them.
And embroidery machines, I looked it up. I knew, but I want to make sure. And no, the files that a Janome embroidery machine use are JEFs or JEF pluses, and DSTs. Okay, but DSTs are a different kind of file. They don't really stitch with those per se. So no, it would be wonderful if you had a machine that could cut appliques and at the same time create a stitch file that would work with your embroidery machine. But
I mean, unless you have a what do you call
digitizer.
A digitizer program, like we have Artistic Digitizer. We could open the file up into Artistic Digitizer and resave it as a Janome file.
So this was my reply to this person. I says, I'm not sure of that, because if you want to use an embroidery file for the actual stitching on your embroidery machine, it has to be able to save the stitch file in the format the machine can read. To my knowledge, unless things have changed since I used my older version of the Scan and Cut, it cannot save the file in a JEF format, which is what a Janome machine reads. It does save it as a PES, which is a file format a Brother machine can read. And I said I would do more research. And I did. And then I wrote this. No, you can't, unless you have a third-party program like Embrilliance or Artistic Digitizer or Hatch Embroidery file or program. You cannot convert the file in the actual machine except to the file type that can only be read by a Brother embroidery machine. This is what I found out as I did research online, and I looked extensively and could not find anywhere where it was saying that a Brother scan and cut machine would save files in a format that could be used by any embroidery machine beyond a Brother machine. Okay, so yeah, it would be nice if it did that. Now, if somebody can point me in the direction, as in a website or something that says for sure and tells me this, fine, put it in the comment section. I'll go check that out. But I searched and I found nothing with that. So yeah. So anyways, that's all the comments we had this week. Thank you for your comments. It got us thinking about several different issues here as well. Because there's always something to learn. When you're doing these kind of things, No one person on the face of the planet knows everything there is to know about this. And for every one way to do something, there are several more that can work just as effectively. So you have to keep that in mind. But we're telling you what we have learned over the time that we have been doing machine embroidery, and we've been doing it for quite a while now. And we do tell you when it is our opinion about things, like using a white bobbin all the time, that kind of thing. You are free to do that
Oh,
which works for you.
and if you have a comment that disputes what we have to say in the video, please back it up by showing us
Where this is said,
where this is said, or what something is actually made of.
do your due diligence and give us a site, a reliable site we can go to and educate ourselves about that then. And we're not afraid to admit that that is something we didn't know.
And then if it's something we've learned, we'll pass it on
We'll
to
share
you.
it on with you as well, because that's the whole point of us doing these sessions, is to help you get the most out of your embroidery machine, because you spend a lot of money on that. So you don't want it sitting in a corner gathering dust. That's a really expensive, what do they call those things? Gotchis? Not gotchis. you know, uh, things that collect dust in your house. I forget what the word
I
is.
forget where it's from.
It's a, well, anyways, you know what I'm.
Chachi.
Chachi, that's it. Yeah, kind of a thing. Okay, hope you enjoyed this week. Next week, we're going to talk about the editing screen on machine. Now, of course, we're going to be focusing on the one that's specific to our Janome machine, but there are probably similar things, might be just slightly called something a little different or have a different button to activate it. But we're going to talk about those, what editing you can do in your embroidery machine. And you'd be very surprised at how much you really can do. So you don't have to feel that you need to run out and buy a digitizer, because digitizers are thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Those
and
programs are not cheap.
they're not particularly
User friendly.
user friendly.
Yep. So that's what we're going to do next week. And then we're going to take a break for a while because we'll be off to Australia. So hope you got something out of this today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.